GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand, presents Galata Plus at the Berlin Film Festival 2024.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Hello, Antonella, and congratulations on Memories of a Burning Body, your film playing at the Berlinale. Now, your first film, The Awakening of the Ants, also played at the Berlinale, and it's about the pressure that a woman has to have a third child, and especially a male child. This film is about older female sexuality. Do you see this as being a kind of a companion piece to the earlier film?
I think so, yes. Like, I went into a quest of talking about sexuality in the different stages of a woman's life. I actually did a previous short film as well before The Awakening of the Ants, which was sexuality during childhood. And then El Despertar de las Hormigas, The Awakening of the Ants, was about youth. And now it's about, elder age. And I think it was like a sort of culmination and conversation about female sexuality in the different stages of a woman's life.
Right. Now, how did you hit upon the title? A very, very interesting title, Memories of a Burning Body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it came out, like it just popped up. When I was talking to these women, they had such powerful phrases, such powerful ideas, And I remember one day just walking through the streets and I was like thinking, how could it be called? How could it be called? And then I remember this idea of one of the women telling me like, I need a fireman to put out all this fire inside of me. So I was like, okay, it has to do with something with fire and so on. And it just popped up.
Memories of a Burning
Memories.
Body.
And of course, it's the memories of their lives. So in that sense, it just came together alone.
Right. You said that this film, in a statement, you said that this film is the kind of conversation that you never had with your grandmothers.
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little?
Yes, for sure. I did, after my first film, I had many questions because many people came to me to talk about the film and they told me their own experiences. And somehow I started saying like how it was for my grandmothers, like I never got to talk to them one of my grandmothers had 11 children, the other 7. So I was like, did they enjoy their sexuality? Did they want it all their pregnancies? Did they have an orgasm? I never talked to them about this. I was not able. My grandmother from my mother's side had already passed away, and the other, it's still alive, but she has memory problems. So I couldn't go deep in the conversation with her. So I started talking to other women, and from these conversations, the movie came to be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm from India, and that's another place where it's a very conservative society still. There are pockets that are urban, but a large part of the country is still very conservative. So sexuality is not really something that is discussed in the open. What is it like in Costa Rica, where you're from?
Yeah,
or Latin America?
No, I think unfortunately, I mean, the movie itself it's an example that it's still a taboo. They preferred anonymity, like they told me like, I would never be able to talk about this, not in camera, no. I don't want people to recognize me. A woman even told me to change the pitch of her voice because they were really afraid of hurting others, hurting the ones that they love.
Right.
Like giving shame to their families, bringing shame to their families, to their granddaughters, grandsons, and so on. So it's still a taboo to talk about these subjects, yes.
Right. So is it still a taboo only for older women or even for younger women?
I mean, I think older women, like there's a thing like we tend to see our grandmothers almost as saints, and saints are virgins. So you really don't imagine your grandmother having sex, or enjoying sexuality at all. It's like an image that you don't want to have. So it's still a taboo for sure. From a certain age, a woman tends to become invisible in that sense.
Yeah.
I think for younger women, could be easier to talk about it. I mean, like for my friends and myself, we do talk about it, not as openly as I would like to or as we would like to, But I think there's more information for sure. There's more possibility to talk about sexuality nowadays.
Right. Is that why you have one woman on screen and the voices are off screen? And this one woman represents many voices of people who are older in life.
Yes, that's exactly why. Like up front, when I started talking to these women, they told me, I don't want to be recognized. I don't want to be seen. So that's supposed like that made me, or that obliged me to be creative on how to do the film.
Yeah.
Like one thing are the voices, and I wanted, for me, it was very important that those voices remain the protagonists of the film. But I did had to come with an idea of what to show on screen.
Right.
Yes, and that's when I decided to work with actresses, because I really wanted people to, like, feel what these women were feeling. There's a very important part of the movie that it's talking about their bodies, their skins going like onions, like the wrinkles and everything. So in that sense, I wanted the audience to see as well what they were talking about.
Right. Now, theoretically speaking, supposing you had taken down, you talked to a number of people, number of older women, you noted down what they had to say, and you crafted dialogue, and you had actresses play those women. Well, did you ever consider that as opposed to having one personification on screen?
Yes, but somehow, because I was intertwining these stories, I sort of started creating a new story in itself.
Ah,
Because it's not one single story or three stories of these three women. It was almost like a collective story
right, right.
that became to be one single storytelling. So yes, I don't know. It just came to be like this. It was there's also a place for playfulness in the film. Like telling these stories, their memories, putting everything together in one single location. It was about being creative and being playful with their ideas, their memories.
Right. And I think that's what gives the film such an interesting structure, because
you.
you're hearing something and you're seeing something.
Yeah.
That's a little thing. So
It was a real challenge.
Yeah.
It was. Hopefully, it works. The whole time I was thinking, I hope it works at the end.
Right,
like I
right.
couldn't know until the film was done.
But what was the biggest challenge?
I think that, like,
Structuring it?
yes, like, well, it was a challenge also to summarize somehow, because I have a lot of material. The research I did was for 2 years and a half. We talked weekly with these women. I talked weekly with these women. It was also during COVID times. So in that sense, it was like a conversation, a very intimate conversation, because they were recluded in their houses. Like they were alone in their houses. They couldn't go outside because there was such a fear of getting sick. And it became almost like a therapy. It became like I was their psychologist and they were mine, and we talked about solitude, about the fear of death, about, there were so many topics. And yeah, it was challenging to, out of all this material, to come to the idea of one single movie and put all the stories together. It was challenging.
There's this lovely line in your movie that says, it's been really difficult to unlearn everything we've been taught about being a woman and just be a human being. It sounds easy, but it's so difficult because, I can imagine how difficult, because you can't just go up to somebody and say, okay, what's your sex life like? That it's one of the most private aspects of people. And for you to do this with older women who are not very used to talking about, or perhaps they have never talked about their sexuality at all, or what they feel, or what they wanted, or that's just amazing that you managed to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I believe that, yes, for sure it was hard. I actually at some point asked them, have you talked about this with your daughters? Did you talk about this with your mother, with your sisters? And they were like, no, never. It's like, it's really hard to talk about these topics, especially after a certain age. So, or at a certain time of life, you know, like it was way more repressive back then.
Yeah.
So for sure, for them, it was very hard to talk about this. And it was a process to construct this, to build this intimacy. It was a process. I mean, I didn't came directly to say, hey, how's your sex life? You know?
Right.
No, it was a process. We started talking about different subjects, about different topics,
Yeah.
and with trust, we built, it was a trust, building, a process of building trust.
Right.
Yes.
Now, you know, you know, from an Indian example, sex is usually tied to marriage in a larger society. There are urban pockets where this is changing and this has changed, but largely speaking, you know, there's something, you know, you call it the wedding night as opposed to you know, the husband and the wife having sex or something, because the thing is, it's so closely tied to marriage.
Yes.
Is that the same way in Costa Rica as well?
I think it was like that. I mean, for sure, sexuality, especially in a Catholic country where, you know, having sex without being married is a sin.
Yeah.
Yes, it is tied to marriage. Nowadays, it has been changing, you know, for younger generations. For us, it's no longer like you have to go to be a virgin until your marriage. It's not like that anymore. But yeah, for sure it was like that.
Yeah, yeah. I love this line. Just explain it to me at the end. Time is a bubble.
Yes.
It is not linear. I mean, it doesn't have to be about the movie. Just the concept itself sounds so wonderful. Can you talk about that?
Yes, one of the protagonists is a writer. She writes books for children. So I think when she talks, she develops so much imaginary, you know, like it's so visual what she talks about. Yes, and that's exactly why, that's the reason, I mean, that phrase itself was the reason why I put everything on one single location, in one single moment in the life, like all those memories living inside the house at the same time, present and past fused together, you know? It's like, it's not linear. Yeah, that's true. Like we come across our history through remembering.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's so lovely, and I love that idea, and I thought it was a beautiful way to do the film as well.
Yeah, and it's almost like a kind of human science fiction, because you know the concept sounds like science fiction because you know you're fusing time and you know you have all these things, but it's also like a memory book, like a book of photographs or memories, and it's a beautiful. Thank you for your film and thank you for this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand, presents Galata Plus at the Berlin Film Festival 2024.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.